is emotional, and the third one is aesthetic, and fourth one is moral. So cognitive is something, the information that is being conveyed, that is passed on. Emotional is something where they are trying to share the underlying feelings, and they are trying to express their underlying feelings. Aesthetics is something related to the overall precision and artistry of the message. Then the fourth one, moral, the values being conveyed through the message. I hope you two have got it. Can you just cite any one example that, moral messages we get, isn't it? That what are the moral messages we get, or emotional messages we get, or aesthetic messages, like a good morning with a beautiful flower.
Yes, ma'am. Don't drink and
Yeah. So that one, and emotional messages where, we should be helpful to the fellow human being, or how to take care of the elderly people, and how to support the child, girl child, or all those things. So these are the four categories and the dimensions of James Baldwin has observed, that messages are basically of these dimensions. However, Shackford says that when these four dimensions are jumping off a point to prove, dimensions are jumping off a point to improve our media literacy. How? For example, though the streaming online videos exposed people on the benefits of a miracle weight loss drug through an advertisement, where the ad is really trying to tell us to be evaluated in what form. For example, now these four dimensions, how are these four dimensions we are seeing in the social media? So what media psychologist Karen Dill Shackelford has done is that he tried to explain these four emotional the four dimensions, taking with the example of a ad that is related to the miracle weight loss. I think you might have come across, if you have a Facebook, we get so many ads, right? So there are ads that comes talks about, hair loss, hair gain, weight gain, and all those things. So studying that, in that one ad related to the miracle weight loss, media psychologist Karen Dills Shackford says that to understand how the media literacy improves our point of view, to understand the message consumption is in the cognitive dimension. The first one is that on the cognitive dimension, we can assess what information the ad is conveying to us by asking some of the following questions. Yeah. So what is the weight loss ad is asking, and it talks that, what is it is trying us, and trying our mental mind to understand what is the ad about, what is the ad promising, what is the drug trying to do. This is what the cognitive dimension is about, that particular message. That cognitive is something related to our mental thinking, right? So so you, once you see this one, are what is this? Okay, this is a hair loss. So what is this? This is a drug. Whether it works or not, it is something where we will try to give. So what does this drug promise is what we will try to do. That is the cognitive dimension whenever we see any ad. Then the next one is the emotional dimension. Emotional dimension is that, we evaluate the feelings of the ad, the ad that has been created, that comes with some kind of a feel, or it will talk about some kind of a expression. Like for example, if overweight, if they show that, before and after images, you might have seen, no, generally for the weight loss, or even for the hair loss or something. So these are the common examples what I am quoting. So what happens, we have an emotional feeling attached to it. Okay, if I lose my weight, then I would look better. Yeah. Or it is something like, the weight loss will give me more confidence, or it will help us to imagine a positive way. So it will help give us a positive thinking that we should take the drugs in our lives. So this is how our emotional, it is talking about the emotional dimension when the ad comes to us through media. Then the third one is the aesthetic dimension. So when we are talking about the aesthetic dimension, we can determine how the ad employs messages and images to make us believe the product will deliver. Yeah. So what it is trying to do is that, it is trying to convince you that, okay, if I buy this, then definitely I will have some positive effect on this. Might be my hair will be growing, or might be I will be losing the weight or something. So that way it is trying to create an impact on your thought that, this ad will help. So that is how they will use that. What is the need for them to use before and after? Because it's the aesthetic dimension that will help you to understand the message that the ad person has employed, has created to convince and to captivate your mind. So when you see the before and after, you will feel better. Okay, before is something where I didn't like. After using it, those medicines or the drugs, I will be feeling happy. So that is how I will be happier in my coming lives. So, and indirectly, there we also see that, there are some ads that offer testimonials, that, testimonials. For example, whenever we are going to this YouTube thing, sometimes they are talking about the reverse diabetics. So the lady or the person is, they are identified as an experts, well educated background, so they are giving the testimonies that, yes, I had this, I have reversed because of XYZ drug. So that is the aesthetic dimension. Now coming to the fourth one, the moral dimension, we can understand, or rather we can examine what ad makers wanted to say. So here, obesity could be one thing, loss of hair could be, genetic problems. These are all genetic problems. But on the moral dimension, we can examine what the ad makers wanted to say. Are they equating thinness with happiness, or are they equating overweight or into cancer? Then people are, see, if all human bodies are the same, then we are like animals and plants. But anyhow, we are different. But the moral dimension, what we can examine is that, what is the ad maker trying to say? He is either trying to equate the thinness with happiness, or he is trying to demotivate that because you are overweight, or you are balded, that you don't have a respect in the in the family and the society, and you are not loved and respected, not only in the family or in the society, because you are not thin, is what we try to understand as a media literacy whenever we come across these ads. This is how we see that, media literacy plays an importance to have a critical thinking, that critical thinking of about the messages, where where the persons are consuming the messages in all the forms of medias. Yeah. Now let us understand what are the three stages of media literacy. Yeah, there are certain stages. So what are the three stages? So Elizabeth Thoman, founder and president of a Center for Media Literacy, Los Angeles, says media literacy is an overall term that incorporates three stages of continuum leading to media empowerment. So what are those? So the first stage is simply becoming aware of the importance of managing one's media diet. So the first stage is that, see, you might use lots of media, I might not use. So basically, the first stage is talking about your one's media usage or the media diet. That means making choices and knowing the time of what you have spent with television, video, or games, films, print media, all the various forms of media. So the first stage is about the media diet. Then the second stage is about the specific skills of critical viewing, learning, and analyzing and questioning about the message. Yeah. So the second stage is that when the first stage is about what the media diet is, like, what are your different forms of media channels that you consume, you have a consumption of the media messages. The second stage is talking about learning specific skills of understanding, having a critical thinking of the particular media messages, whether it is a message whether it is to learn, to analyze, or it is constructed message that will have an impact on the media user, is we need to understand that they we need to have develop a critical thinking to understand whether it has any a particular frame of mind or question, or it is a constructed message. So skills of critical viewing are the best learned through inquiry based or interactive group activities. So here we have to see, if we want to develop the critical thinking to understand what is the media message, it's a contract activity which can help to understand a student or a person much better about the media literacy. Then the third stage goes behind the frame to explore deeper issues. Yeah. See, here the third stage is very important. We learned that, first what is the media type, the second is about the critical analysis or the thinking, or it is constructed. Now the third stage is going behind the frame of understanding what how it is constructed, or whether we need to have a critical thinking. But in the third stage, you have to understand that who produces the media. Yeah, who produces the messages on the media that we are expressing, we are experiencing day to day. So we have to understand that, who produces for what purpose, for whose profit, whose loss, and who decides what, isn't it? So here when we see in the social media, we don't find you don't have any source, we only see the forwarded thing. So we have to see that, in as part of the media literacy, you should understand that, the third point, that you have to see that 5Ws. Five W's, one H. Yeah. Is it okay? Am I visible? Yeah. So here the third stage talks about the third stage talks about uh, as we have the basic elements of communication, who says what to whom. So in similarly, you need to understand and also have an understanding that media is something, when we see the messages, we have to also explore that who has produced the media that we are experiencing, and what is the profit behind it, who will lose it if they don't read, and who will gain it, who lose it, and who decides, and what is decided by whom, that what are we supposed to see, isn't it? So this stage of social, political, and economic analysis looks at everyone in the society, and it is very important in this today's world, because as we are seeing, the social media is very much vibrant and dynamic and fastly reachable. So in that manner, we see that, there is more impact of the social, political, and economic analysis. Our media literacy students should always, media or the communication student should always have. Then let us understand what is media literacy, nature, scope, and importance. Yeah. So with this, what do you feel that, what is the media literacy and the nature? So basically, media literacy concept includes the ability to access and analyze media message, as well as create, reflect, and take action using the power of information and communication to make a difference in the world. So here, please make a note. Here, the nature of media literacy is access and analyze the message, and at the same time to create and to reflect and take action using the power of information and communication to make a difference in the world. So that means it should be of something where here it should have a positive kind of an influence. So you can make it different with this one. Media literacy entails the acquisition of a new culture in which technology and human beings are in harmony and in complement with each other, isn't it? So as you know that technology has got its pros and cons. So we have to see that media literacy should help us to have a culture wherein the technology and human beings go hand in hand and have a harmony and are best complement to each another. Yeah. Then next we see that it is a culture poised for dialogue and communication. A culture where the person is flexible, intelligent, diligent, and prepared to interact meaningfully with others through use of technology. So the nature of media literacy is something where you try to understand and you try to communicate a dialogue with the society with the help of the messages, and those messages should be something diligent, intelligent, and be more meaningful, so that you continue to interact with the use of technology, right? Then let us understand what is the scope of media literacy. So the first one is that media literacy promotes the critical thinking skills that enable people to make independent choices with regard to first one, selection of media programming, second one, interpretation of the information received through various channels of mass communication. We find it scope because we have so many number of channels with us now. So how do we identify? How do we have our own choice? So the scope, the media literacy will help you to understand critical thinking in selection of your media programming. One, and the second one is interpretation of the information received through various channels of mass communication. Then, media literacy provides strategies that enable individuals to decipher the information they receive through the channels of communication. That means you encode your information so that it is more reachable, understandable, and communicable to the people whom we are trying to communicate with. Yeah. So that includes children, peer group, people responsible for media programming. So it is all in all, we have to understand that when we are talking about media literacy, it is where it is helping not only the other side who are consuming it, but at the same time who are producing also are being more benefited and have a better understanding and created good programs, so that the media the media information that we are getting is having a great impact on the society. Media literacy should not be considered merely as an opportunity. Yeah, let us not consider it as an opportunity for like for job or something, but rather we can see that we understand it is helping us to understand the context. It is giving us the critical analysis. It is helping us to upgrade your awareness levels of the media and its news and initiatives that is being uh, uh, reaching to the public by providing insightful articles, informative news programs, and uplifting films. So that means what in a crux we can say that media literacy is not only about a communication student should be having, but as per the we need to have, because we can see that it helps us and builds our critical and contextual analysis and help us in increasing our own understanding of the best usage of the media and understanding the insightful articles, informative news programs, and uplifting films. So that is about the scope. Moving on to the importance. Yeah, once again. So do you find that there is an importance for the media literacy in today's world? Yes, we agree. you know there is always a need for the media literacy is the thing that everybody has to come across in today's world. Today's definition of literacy is more than reading and writing. In order to be functionally literate in our media saturated world, children and young people have to be enabled to read the messages that inform, entertain, and educate us through many dramatic stories. Yeah, if you go back to understand this, we have to understand what are the functions of the communication, right? We understand the functions, the primary, the functions of the communication is to educate, to instruct, to inform, right? So when we are using the messages or when the messages are posted in our medium, that means that they are trying to communicate, to inform, to educate, right? So in that manner, in today's importance of media literacy is very important from young people to the older people, because we see in some kind of information and messages that come to us in forms of stories, right? In forms of insightful articles. So in that matter, we see that there is an importance to understand. So let us understand that media literacy has many benefits. First, it is important because it will make you a better citizen. How can media make you a better citizen? Because media literate people understand what media are, how the media messages are constructed, and how they are conveyed, the ideas, the information, and news from someone else's perspective, right? From someone else's perspective. So then they understand that specific techniques are used to create emotional effects. Yeah. Then we can identify those techniques and intend an actual. We need to identify the intended and actual effects. That what is the purpose they have constructed, why they are conveying the messages. They are aware that the media benefits some people but leave others out. Yeah. So in a target of so XYZ and random selection of the people, we can see that the media can benefit few of them and few of them left out. Depending upon their background and their interest, they might not go with. I might like newsworthy information. You might like entertainment. So that way we see that there are always differences of opinion. So it depends upon your own interest, how you can understand the medium message, and the media consumption totally depends upon your background. So here we at the same time you can pose some questions like how the message is going to help me, how the message is not of my area, why the message has come, what is the purpose of message, what is the need for the message. So that way you will be in a better position, and that's you will become a better citizen and see that that the messages which are not worth you will not come to you, and you will stay away from all that harmful messages or distorted messages or irrelevant messages. The next one is media saturation. So here let us understand that television is not the only mass medium that counts for media saturation. Yeah, it is not the television. Now with this growing of internet technology, new media, and all those things, it is not only the television that there is a saturation point, that is overload and more of information is coming to us. So that way so when one considers So when one considers pop music, radio, newspapers, magazines, computers, and video games, in addition to TV, we are exposed to more mass media messages in one day than our grandparents were in a month. So with the growing technologies, with the growing forms of mass media, we see that television is not only the one medium which is giving us media saturation, but we see that there are other forms. So it could be the music, it could be the radio or newspapers, that we see that uh, there is so much of information being provided by the different forms of media. Then there is called as a media influence. There is something called as media influence. So what is media influence? media sell audience consciousness. Yeah, they try to predispose people not just to buy certain detergents, car, or aspirin, but to simply buy. So, how much of media influence do we have? Yeah, so influence is in a sense something that it is not only making you persuading you to buy, but it is making an attempt to make to simply buy by seeing these media messages. So it has a media influence as well. Then the next point is that the manufacturer and the management of the information. Yeah, most government and businesses have PR department. Yeah, know how the PR, what is the role of the PR department? PR department is the index of the organization, creating and the mirror of the organization, creating all the positive impact and building this relationship between the internal public and the external publics, right? So here we see that most organizations, we have PR departments whose purpose is to get the good news about them and put the everything that is good that has to be conveyed to the public. And this they are the manufacturers of the good information only, because they have to build, they have to strengthen their organization. And we see that PR departments have been succeeded in doing so. And we see that the news from the PR departments has been published about their achievements and all those things. So that is how they try to make the public consciousness more prompt by their press releases and notes, and try to manage the information in such a way that the only the pros are or the good issues are being talked about the organizations. Then next, the media education and democracy. Yeah, here why the importance of media literacy is important in terms of media education in a democratic setup. Yeah, when we are saying media education in democratic setup, that means what? Democracy is by the people, for the people, of the people. So that means it is something where it is the public in the government that should work in a systematic procedure. So you have a political setup. So in this, political leaders have discovered the influence of the media. Yeah, that is the reason why we see that you have these many in this days, these many accounts on Twitters, Facebook, and everywhere. So the political parties have gauged the what do we say, gauge the significance of the media. So they have discovered the influence of the media on the public. So those who use the media will get their way regardless of public policies or personal integrity. So whether you like or not or what, if I go there and meet only, I will have my personal relationship is ruled out because of the media consumption and media usage. Then the next importance we can understand is that, the visual communication, the growing of the visual communication and information. Yeah. So for hundreds of years, society has valued literacy, and we understand literacy in a sense that there is more of visual communication that in today's world. So that way we need to have the visual media literacy. Are you aware of the thumbnails of YouTube, right? How do you search on a YouTube? Basically, you type. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the things that come. So how do you decide that one? Seeing that visual thumbnails, we decide. So that is how the media literacy will help you to understand what is the thumbnail, whether it is serving my purpose or not, whether the message, prepared by them is of my worth or my usage or not, is what it will help you. Then the growing privatization of information. Yeah. Now here this information rich and information for we have one theory. Yeah, that information and rich information and information poor. That means the information poor are unable to afford the information they need to better their lives. unfortunately, though we are tech developed, though we are into the globalization, with thanks to LPG, that we are part of the global village, but we see that there are still barriers and obstacles, and we still have information rich and information poor. So what do you mean by that one? That the poor who are not able to afford the reach of information because of their certain bad drawbacks, they still are not able to get the proper information by which their lives can be better. So of this growing of privatization of the information is fast becoming, and now today we have this information economy, right? Here with what is information economy? The world economy is fast becoming an information economy, in a sense that the information has become as a commodity. Yeah, for example, newspaper. So what is that? It is something like a newspaper, it's a commodity. So but where we see, but what do we have an understanding as a student of communication and journalism? Newspaper is something a form of mass media where we are trying to cater the news, being the fourth pillar of the democracy. But when it is coming to the market, when we try to calculate it in terms of economy, it is something where it has taken a form of a commodity. So newspaper has become a commodity. So now here, the poor people might not have an access to that information which the rich people will have. So that is how we see that there is a wide gap growing in between information poor and information rich because of the growing wide gap of privatization. Then the storytellers of our generation. Yeah. So what do you understand with the storytellers of our generation? Here we have to understand that media brings the world into our home, right? From them, we learn about war and peace, the environment and the scientific discoveries, and so on. That is what we see. What does we see when we on? You take away the entertainment part, but other, news channels and all those things. So we see talking about, Ukraine war. Then you will be talking about the peace initiatives. What the United Nations or UNESCO's or how whole other people are trying to plan. Then we talk about the scientific discoveries, we talk about the climate change, we talk about the you know women empowerment, all the social issues and all those things. So however, we are dependent upon the mass communication to understand that how the world is growing in terms of equality. Yeah, here the mass communication is plays a very major role to get the information about what is happening in the world, and media is only the thing that brings the whole thing in our one drawing room. Yeah, how? With the help of the television. When you're on television, you can access the news that is in United Kingdom of in Britain or in America. So that is how it is trying to tell the stories of our generation, that how the places have been, how the changes have been, how the events have been. So in other words, everything we know about the people, places, events, we cannot firstly we cannot visit, but they are we are able to access it because of the technology and because of the modes of mass media. Then the other importance is that there are other six reasons for teaching media literacy. Yeah, what it is: we live in a meditated environment. Yeah, sorry, we live in a mediated environment. Yeah, you just imagine yourself without any communication. Will you be able to live? No. So Dan Blake of Canadian Association of Media Education says that when they have done a workshop, he presented 5 reasons for teaching about the role of media in the society. What are the 5 reasons? The first one is we live in a mediated society. Then the second one is media literacy emphasizes critical thinking. Then being media literate is part of being an educated citizen. Then media literacy promotes active participation in a media saturated environment. And media education helps us to understand communication technologies. Yeah. So these are the, 5 reasons where we see that the media literacy is of importance, because see, we live where we have all that messages coming around us. We have a mediated environment. Then media literacy is not only telling about the information, but also developing a critical thinking. Then it is about that, it is literate, being literate is one part, and being media literate is another part, which shows that you are an educated, empowered citizen. Then fourth one is media literacy promotes active participation in a media saturated environment. Because you have got critical thinking, because you are media literate, it will give a level playing field to the person who can actively participate in the media saturated environment. Then the fifth one is it helps to understand your communication technologies, which is very most important in today's day. So technology is understanding the technology is growing, but how do we use it for better communication is the need of the hour. So we have to understand. Next, let us understand what are the subfields of media literacy. Yeah, what, how do, where is the media literacy required? So the media literacy is basically required in the present generation in two forms. One is digital literacy, and the second one is the visual literacy. So digital literacy, what do you mean by digital literacy? It means to having the skills you need to live, learn, and work in a society where information communication is growing in our day-to-day life, uh, where the technology dependence is growing in our day-to-day life. Yeah, prior to this COVID, yeah, we used to at least go to the bank and all those things, but later on we have seen that we have been more dependent on our technology. We are using more the digital technologies. Yeah, we are trying to use more internet platforms, social media platforms, and mobile devices. So hence we need to have a media literacy. Hence we need to have a digital literacy, which is part of the media literacy. So media literacy is often discussed in the context of its persecuted media literacy. Began in UK and United States as a result of a war during in 1930s, when they were having that propaganda. When during the 1930s, when UK and US were having a war, they have the propagandas they were trying to push among the public. Then they felt that should be a media literacy. Then later on, apart from that war in 1960s, the rise of advertising also has given a scope for the media literacy, and emphasized the need for the media literacy, because manipulative ads were increasing in form of there were many ads that were trying to influence, they were trying to manipulate the minds of the people. So hence there was a need for the media literacy. Yeah. So educators began to promote media literacy to teach individuals how to judge and assess the media messages they were receiving, right? The ability to critique digital and media content allows the individuals to identify and evaluate messages. So hence we have to see that there was a need from 1930. In 1960 it grew because of the advertising, trying to captivate and manipulate and give wrong information or give distorted information. There was a need for the individuals to have a media literacy. So Rennie Hobbs developed a list of skills to demonstrate digital and media literacy competence. Digital and media literacy includes the ability to examine and comprehend the meaning of messages, judging credibility, and assess the quality of a digital work. Yeah. So a digital literate individual becomes a socially responsible member of their community by spreading awareness, helping others find digital solutions at home, work, or at any platform that has been provided. So, but then digital literacy doesn't just pertain to reading and writing on a digital device, but it also involves knowledge of producing other sources of media like recording and uploading videos. So it is not only understanding and analyzing or talking, but also it is talking about to know the technical know-how of using the various technology platforms. Yeah. Then the next one is the visual literacy. Now, what is visual literacy? Visual communication, right? Symbols of communicated are what we, the symbols, the signs, what we see is or are part of the visual literacy. So, to understand this one, we have to see that, with technology making visuals increasing part of human communication, right? Whenever you get a WhatsApp message, sometimes when you are happy, you put an emoji. So what is that? It is also a communication, a visual communication. So you are trying to express your feeling with that emoji or with the meme or with the GIF, right? So all these are part of the visual literacies. So here we see the messages in animal. If you go past, there's a history also actually attached to this. Symbols of communication, where, if you see that archives, or if you see that ancient caves and all those things, what is that we understand? That they those art, that form of art is trying to convey some message to us, isn't it? So we have to understand that, the visual literacy is since the ages from the past. So now with the growing of the technology, we see that, there is a increased demand for the visual communication, because it helps very easily to understand. Yeah, it helps people to understand very easily, whether they have knowledge or not. But there is attraction, there is some information, there is some interpretation. You don't have to read, understand, and all those things. So recognizing the ability of this growing technologies, the visual communication is playing very important role in our day-to-day life. Yeah, today the most coherent definitions by author who is called as Scott M. MacLeod. He said that, he has proved as a leading theorist of visual literacy. He, in his book called as In Understanding Comics, the Visible Art, he describes that how artists can control core elements of the work, including form, beyond gesture to convey meaning and emotion. So the ability to convey ideas beyond abstract concepts is developed through visual communication, in which reading is ingrained as left to right. Left moving depictions suggest objects ordering and gesture, cartoon, and all. See, left is not he said that in comics, according to his ancient comics, there was a research done by him. He has a, and he tried to read that media message, that, how the cartoons are being used, what are the colors to depict the feel, the background, yeah, and how the left moving depiction talks about the cartoon pictures, and how the right moving the facing depiction talks about. So it is conveying, though it is a comic. A comic is basically the artist work with the cartoon and all those things, with those written dialogues in a box and something like. But still, they were conveying some message, and they were trying to convey. So that is the importance of the visual communication or visual literacy. So that was in the comics, but in the present era of technology, all those things, we see that, in this highly complex of importance to have a media literacy in terms of visual literacy, because what we see is we tend to believe, right? You understand, no? What we see is we tend to believe. Okay, so here we see. So therefore, it is very important for us to see that, to understand that, that while we when we see something in as part of our message, as part of our message consumption or part of our media consumption, you need to have a media literacy in terms of digital literacy, and also as well as in terms of visual literacy, right? So this is where our first unit has come to an end. So Shekhar, are you there? It's only with three.
Yes,
Hello.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So we have ended with that first unit where it was talking about all the media literacy, and stages of media literacy. Yeah. We first learned about the media literacy definitions, then we talked about the nature, scope, and importance. Then we have discussed about the subfields of media literacy in terms of digital literacy and in terms of the visual literacy. So this is the first part of media literacy course, which first unit is introduction of media literacy. These topics. So do you have any questions or anything that we can discuss?
Okay.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. You have any points to be discussed or something?
Oh, ma'am, I don't have any book.
Okay, no, that's what I'll just talk to the concerned person and try to share the PDF. That is what I told them, that because on the online it is very difficult to grab the attention of the students. So if they have a textbook or something study material, it would be more helpful. So let me check it out and get back to you. Tomorrow we'll have a class at the same time, no?
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, okay, ma, okay. Tell me something about yourself, Chandrasekhar.